Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray is Claudia Gray's fourth novel. Yes, fourth novel and fifth story. She did have a quick story also called Master and Apprentice in A Certain Point of View, but she also wrote Leia, Princess of Alderaan, Bloodwine, and Lost Stars. All of which are very highly rated, typically amongst the Star Wars novel fandom, the literature fandom of the Star Wars community. And she did it again. However, there are some slight caveats that I personally have with it. Either way, I am very happy that we got this book, and I cannot commend Claudia Gray enough on her world building. Just so you guys know, I'm going to be very slight spoilers. I'm not going to talk too much about the actual plot in this book or necessarily what the big reveals are, but I will be talking about how what this book gives us as Star Wars fans, especially the lore nerds like myself who want to know new things about how X works or how Y does this. So overall, for the story of Master and Apprentice, if I'm being completely honest, it's a little bit forgettable for me. Not bad, not boring, but it's kind of like if you have a favorite TV show that you really enjoy and you sat down and say that you really like CSI or NCIS or Game of Thrones or Supernatural or whatever, and you sat down, like you do every week, to watch it. You watch it. Okay, cool. Yeah, that was a good episode. And then 2 weeks later, you're watching a different episode and you don't really remember what happened in the previous one. That is kind of how the story side of Master and Apprentice hit me, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad book at all. I am incredibly happy that I bought this. I am looking forward to buying this on Audible once I get my next credit. My next Audible credit, I'm going to use that to buy the Audible Audible version of this, because I want to experience it with a narration and with all the sound effects and stuff that they usually put into those audiobooks. So this is one of the very first of the new canon that I've solidly just read, like physical as a book. And there are characters in here that I absolutely adore, new characters that are introduced. There are 1.5 billion world building expansions. That's really what this novel feels like to me. It's meant to be a world building novel. It's meant to expand the universe, i.e. the new EU, right? It's meant to tell us more and give us more of that emotional canon that has been really popularized by the Force Center podcast feed, particularly Ken Knapsack, where it's not necessarily just about, okay, so because this treaty was signed here, that means that this planet has to do that, or because this Sith Lord did that, that means whatever, right? I just had to stifle a yawn just saying all of that. That's not necessarily what the canon seems to be with the new canon. It's more about, is it emotionally similar? Does it rhyme with itself? Does it complement each other? Do the stories, help to build more onto, the smaller stories like what you have in novels, do those help to feed into what the movies have to say? And I can tell you right now, I watched Phantom Menace just after finishing this book. I see Qui-Gon in a totally different light. I see Obi-Wan in a very different light. And I'm also still sitting here wondering whatever happened to this character and whatever happened to that character. What about that other character? For example, there are these two jewel smuggler people that end up running into Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and Pax and Rahara, I believe their names were, and they're fantastic. They're the weirdest duo ever. But for example, if you like the characters in Daniel Jose Older's Last Shot book, you're really going to like the characters that you get in this book. The side characters that you're going to get in this book. They're very colorful characters. They're very... There's a specific passage on page 107, if you get the printed version, the printed hardcover version like I've got here, that... Yeah, like I was rolling on the floor laughing, reading that little interaction in between Pax and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and Rahara. It was a fantastic experience as a Star Wars fan. One of the best comedic moments in Star Wars, at least in my opinion. But you get so much, like, you guys can't read my chicken scratch probably, and you're probably not gonna be able to read it from all the way over there, but got all of these little tiny notes about each page. Page 28, page 41, page 48, page 64, page 84, page 102, page 107, page 120, page 125, page 133 and 134. Random emotional aside, page 188, and so on and so forth. All of these being new additions to the Star Wars saga, and all of these being big insights. For example, funny that the Jedi are comfortable with one of their own taking a vital role within a single planet's government, especially one that has close ties to a mega corporation that openly deals in slavery. Random aside. I next to that I have written aside, as in it's a random aside. That's a random thought that I had while reading this book. And there's many more of those random asides that I got out of this book. There's a reason why Claudia Gray is one of the most celebrated authors in the new canon, and really in all of Star Wars literature combined. I'm really looking forward to, hopefully, honestly, looking at the deluge of Star Wars content whenever that slows down. I'm looking forward to buying some of Claudia Gray's original stuff, some of her non-Star Wars stuff, because her writing is just, it's very enrapturing. This book is a grand total of 330 pages. Minor technical difficulty, don't worry about it. 330 pages worth of novel. The print is not that big. However, even with that being said, I would have guesstimating looking at this book, that this book would have taken me about 7 hours to read. It took me like 4 hours of dedicated reading time because I absolutely fell in love with it. Not necessarily with the core story. The core story is very much a vehicle to give you more insights into the character of Qui-Gon and into the character of Obi-Wan. Really, a lot of people were thinking this was going to be mainly an Obi-Wan novel, or a 50% Obi-Wan, 50% Qui-Gon novel. I'm going to argue that this is a 75% Qui-Gon and a 25% Obi-Wan novel, really. You can tell that Claudia Gray, I was at the Lucasfilm publishing panel at Celebration, and Claudia Gray was making some mentions about Master and Apprentice, in which she really displayed her love of the character of Qui-Gon, and she clearly was allowed to and chose to run wild with that regarding this book in particular. She loves that character of Qui-Gon, and I'm really thankful for that, because I've always been I don't necessarily love the character of Qui-Gon. Like, I don't have a deep admiration for him as a character. If he was a real person, I'd be kind of annoyed with him most of the time. But I enjoy analyzing him and why does he take the actions that he does. And now that's like up by 300% because of Claudia Gray and her writing. As always, Claudia Gray does a phenomenal job giving you an enjoyable Star Wars experience. Sometimes it's through the core story, like Lost Stars. Sometimes it's through world building, like in Master and Apprentice, or even Leia, Princess of Alderaan. It's not necessarily the core plot stories. Honestly, I can't even remember the name of the planet that is primarily mentioned in this book, where most of the storyline takes place. Can't remember the name of the planet for the life of me, and usually my reading comprehension for print books is much better than mine for audiobooks. But I don't, frankly, I can't remember the name of the planet. However, I do remember the character of Pax and Rahara and Avaros, and the fact that I can remember those names right off the top of my head is a testament to the kind of author that Claudia Gray is. Like I said, sometimes it is just through the story that you enjoy the experience. Sometimes it's through the totality of the writing. How well does the author get the hooks into you? Whether that hook is named story or character development or world building, or it's a combination of those different ways of engaging you as a reader, she always nails whichever one she's aiming for. And she clearly was aiming for character, and at least to me, she clearly was aiming for character development, i.e. Qui-Gon in particular, and world building, because you get a lot of the Jedi Order in this book. You get a lot of politics in this book. And I mean, it's a Claudia Gray novel. Like, you're not gonna buy it. That's like being a Star Wars fan in the mid 2000s or the early 2000s and not buying a Timothy Zahn novel. It's just not what, you need to do that. If you're a fan of the books, with that Star Wars font on it, right? I think is that upside down? Yeah, that was upside down. Anyways, the point is that Master and Apprentice delivers on all fronts, except for maybe the main story for me. But like I said, I barely even noticed that the main story was lacking for me personally. Yeah, it was a damn good book, as always. And yeah, I'm not a professional book reviewer. I'm just sharing my own thoughts. If you've read this book, let me know down in the comments. What did you think? What was your favorite part of this book? What did you think of that gag on page 107? Let me know in the comments down below. And thank you guys for listening to me ramble on. And as always, may the Force be with you guys. Take care.